I was born in a small town on the Adriatic Sea. I was born in a town with one small library, carrying a handful of worn-out books. A town with no bookstore and no university. Yet a town full of dreamers, hoping to one day get the hell out. And as small-town dreamers all over the world do, my friends and I spent our time imagining worlds bigger than our own. And if you liked to write and read like I did, books were not just prized possessions. They delivered more than facts. They were the tools we used to help our imagination grow. In a world without the internet, we read books to survive. I read to survive. I was still in high school when, with an airplane ticket in my hand, I got the hell out of my hometown and out of a country on the brink of war and moved across the ocean to New York. A few years later, I graduated college and my dream came true. I got a job in publishing, working with books, writing them, writing about them, editing them, publishing them, reviewing them. Then came the internet and the years of the digital book, the e-book. Overnight, it seemed, the publishing industry all over the world had to face its biggest fear. Will the e-book kill the print book? Will technology kill the book business as we know it? Will publishing, which includes the book industry and libraries, be able to transform itself in a way that other media industries transformed themselves before it? Many of my colleagues at the time resisted the digital medium. Some still do. But I decided to embrace it, really embrace it. Call it being in the right place at the right time, and I probably was. Call it luck, call it coincidence, call it a decision. But I began to see the e-book was a gateway to a world bigger than anything we'd seen before. So I plunged into the e-book with an open mind and began learning, not from fellow writers and editors, but from the innovators who came into our industry and helped us see what we could not on our own. They opened a new world of possibilities for us. Inspired by what I learned from them, I began to ask a lot of questions. I began to wonder, why was the e-book even here? Was it here to compete with the print book? Or was it here for something else? Was it here to equalize access to books and education and knowledge? I also wondered how many books were never read and discovered throughout history simply because our local bookstores and our local libraries could not carry them. The answer? Millions. I also wondered, what's a book worth if it isn't read? What's it worth? Isn't the ultimate goal of any writer, anything written, to be read? And can you think of a faster, more impactful way for any book, any writer to reach any reader than through the digital medium? I can't. So while many people still feel the need to defend paper, I will remain excited about the ebook. It's easy for me to remain excited about the ebook. All I have to remember is that it has the power to be available to every person, everywhere, at the same time, on any device, anywhere, at the same time, even in a small town on the Adriatic Sea, especially in a small town on the Adriatic Sea. By the way, that ticket that got me out of my hometown had a return date, but it would take a very long time before I would use it, decades in fact. But I did. One day, I packed my bags and left New York and moved across the ocean back to the country from which I once wanted to get the hell out. I was now roughly the same age my mother was when I left, landing in a place familiar and very unfamiliar, comfortable and profoundly uncomfortable. My plan was to travel, to have fun with family, and while there, to test an ebook business model that would open thousands of ebooks to people across my homeland. I knew how to pull it off because I'd spent years working with innovators who have been opening ebooks in all sorts of ways, both to users and making them available through libraries. But my plan was not to stay for as long as I have stayed. It was not to let this project or any project keep me up at 3 a.m. And it most certainly was not to go from that pilot to an idea of turning an entire country into an open virtual library accessible to every person inside its geographic borders. That's the thing about ideas. They are not the product of one person's moment of clarity. And I assure you, on this journey, since leaving New York, there have been very few moments of clarity in my life. Ideas and projects are the product of many minds coming together over a long period of time, leading us slowly but surely into uncharted territories, into the unknown, toward progress. There are many ways to build this kind of a library. Technology is only getting better. Here's how I'd like to describe it. First, it is invisible. It walks with you wherever you go. Second, it is free to its citizens and free to all its visitors and tourists. And it carries everything, all sorts of literature that you can imagine, old and new, famous, infamous, well-known, completely unknown, scientific, and popular. This library is multilingual, and it carries everything from novellas and novels and short stories, essays and poetry, to columns, magazine articles, newspaper articles, scientific literature, children's literature, textbooks, audiobooks. All sorts of literature reaching every corner of a nation on a mission to arm its people with knowledge and creativity, reaching every school, every university, every island, every village, every hotel, every single living room. I'd like you to imagine this library with me now. Imagine a library, an open virtual library that does not check your identity or if you live in the right zip code. It doesn't care who you are, doesn't care what you read. It only cares that you read and that you learn on your own terms. No one there to guide you. That, in fact, is the point. for you to guide yourself, because only you know what you need to learn and when you need to learn it. Imagine nothing to borrow or return. No late fees, no lost books. Imagine a library that asks us all to be better and more humane, giving every one of us an equal opportunity, but asking every one of us to do our part. No PR tricks that turn a handful of books into bestsellers, no social media tactics that often make the most ambitious among us, not necessarily the wisest among us, rise to the top. No comments, no ratings, none of the noise we are used to on social media. Just writing, publishing what we write if we want, reading and discovering in silence. Because what the world needs is not more noise. What our world needs right now is more silence. And what better place to find that silence than inside a library? Sound too good to be true? It is too good. It is true. And best of all, it is possible. And we are fortunate to live in an age that can make such a library a reality. Now, you may ask, how will authors and publishers survive if all books come to us openly and freely? And you may also ask, does this mean that people will stop buying print books? And does it mean that they will stop visiting their local libraries? Of course not. Of course not. But leave that part to those of us in the book and library industry. We have been testing business models for years and decades, and we've made great strides along the way. We already know what works and what doesn't. While we don't have all the answers yet, we do know that everything digital, including the digital book, is here to stay. And we know, or some of us can see, and here comes the uncomfortable part, that the digital book wants to be free to the reader, legally free and sustainably free. But just like I had to step outside my comfort zone to awaken to new possibilities, the book and library industry have to be willing to step outside theirs and step into a place that is comfortable, but yes, it will be uncomfortable. But we must keep on testing and experimenting and failing to learn and failing better until we get it right. Until an open virtual library as big as a country becomes the norm. Now, I am not here to tell you to stop buying print books. In fact, the more you discover free ebooks online, the more likely you are to buy print books. Studies already show that the two formats, digital and print, complement rather than compete with each other. I am also not here to tell you to stop visiting your local libraries. They serve their purpose as they have for hundreds of years. In fact, they may be more relevant today than ever before. But I am here to tell you that there is no library like an open virtual library, reaching millions of people at the same time. I'm here to tell you that all books and knowledge in digital format will not stop growing and expanding, and no library, no physical library, not even the most glorious ones out there, will be able to keep up unless they fully embrace technology. Fully. By that I mean, unless they remain open, open beyond their walls, beyond their working hours, and beyond their zip codes. For the first time in our history, we live in a century that can equalize access to books and knowledge organically and for the benefit of everyone. And I mean everyone. High school kids, sleep-deprived college students, suburban housewives, mad scientists, aspiring writers, best-selling authors, dyslexic children. Everyone. Every one of them can and should walk through the same invisible door and step into the same invisible library. For the past few years, I have been building such a library with a group of dedicated and talented individuals. And I hope that this library sets an example for other countries. Along the way, I have been praised, I have been challenged, and let the record show I got my butt kicked more than once. I still get my butt kicked. I don't like the highs and lows and the ups and downs. And when the task seems too big and the weight too heavy, and it often does, I want nothing more than to return, to run back to my comfort zone. I don't know exactly what still awaits me on this journey, and when and if I will return to New York. I don't know exactly when this beautiful library will see the light of day. But here's what I do know. I know that I am happy that I got to carry the torch of the Open Library for as long as I have. It has been an honor and a privilege to walk the dream of the Open Library right here in my homeland. Thank you.